President Trump endorses Sydney Sweeney. Will Big Bird get canceled? And lawfare is met with lawfare. Because what's more American than endless court battles? And more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Between wars, economic uncertainty, and heated cultural issues that are frankly hard to keep track of, everyone's thinking, can we please have some precedented times to live in? Except for former CNN host Jim Acosta, who apparently was thinking, you know what's never been done before? An interview with an AI version of a dead Parkland school shooting victim. Makes me jealous of the kid because he gets to be dead. But when it comes to the single issue that impacts the day-to-day, nay, minute-to-minute lives of every American, more than any other, without a doubt, it has to be Sydney Sweeney enjoying denim. Forget AI. Reality is going to take all the comedy writing jobs because it's more ridiculous than anything a rational human being could come up with. Some on the left are, of course, mad at this Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad for blue jeans. And I completely agree. This is disgusting. Such obvious cultural appropriation. American Eagle is advertising someone wearing a Canadian tuxedo. Their culture isn't your commercial. What's that, Shelley? Oh, apparently only I'm offended by that. Some say this ad is making a pun about her having great genes, promotes eugenics and white supremacy. I think I'm going to need to make a part 3 about how everything is white supremacy, aren't I? The trilogy no one wanted. American Eagle refused to apologize, which I respect, not because it's anti-woke, but because it's pro-pun. If I were a superhero, I'd be the Punisher. Yuck, 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 yuck. But as a result of the backlash, some folks went digging and found that Sydney Sweeney is allegedly registered to vote as a Republican. And as if this whole thing wasn't already blown out of proportion enough, the friggin' President of the United States of America weighed in on it.
If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic.
This is just sad. Not because non-political ads are being politicized, but because people are now thinking, I need to know where she stands on economic policy before ogling her cleavage. What's that, Shelley? Oh, only I'm upset about that? I guess that makes me an ogle-oligarch? Nobody makes puns like me. This is why you watch America Uncovered. Speaking of, on the last episode, I asked you to leave a comment with the American flag emoji because YouTube's algorithm has been shadow banning the show. Well, guess what? We got 2.5 times the number of comments as compared to the previous video, even with less views. Keep it up. Let's break through the shadow ban. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe because YouTube secretly unsubscribes people as well. Speaking of political wars, lawfare. Here are 2 tangentially related stories with the same moral. First, in a follow-up to the Russiagate episode where we covered how Obama was implicated in what some claim to be a plot to undermine Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered a grand jury probe into the Obama administration. If he gets a mugshot, he's going to need to practice looking in the mirror more than Zoolander to try and get one as cool as Trump's orange steel. But this all depends on Pam. The Epstein files are on my desk. Oops, just kidding. There are no files, maybe. Bondi. And right now, people have less faith in her than in a Boeing plane staffed with the finest DEI hires. Plus, there's the issue of the Supreme Court's ruling over presidential immunity, which likely helps protect Obama. While Trump says that won't protect the people around Obama, he did have a message for the former president.
He owes me big. Obama owes me big.
We've gone from thanks Obama to you're welcome Obama, which leads us into our second tangentially related story. The Office of the Special Counsel has launched a probe into former Special Counsel and Trump prosecutor Jack Smith for alleged illegal political activity. Smith, who looks like me if I peeked at the Ark of the Covenant through those solar eclipse viewing glasses, investigated and charged Trump over alleged mishandling of classified documents and efforts to subvert the 2020 election. However, those charges were dropped when Trump won the 2024 election and Smith resigned shortly before Trump took office. Senator Tom Cotton says Smith tried rushing the trials as a means of political interference to help the Biden and then Harris campaigns, though this clearly wasn't enough to save the Biden campaign from the Biden campaign. So are Obama and Smith going to be tried, found guilty, and face consequences for their alleged actions? Well, like a broken abacus, I wouldn't count on it. Which leads to that moral I alluded to earlier that connects these stories. Sadly, if all my years covering news like this has taught me anything, it's that when it comes to powerful figures facing consequences, nothing ever happens. Wow, is this meme me? I need to stop letting my clones escape. And after the break, grocery prices are not getting any better. Welcome back. According to a new Associated Press NORC poll, almost 90% of Americans are worried about the cost of groceries. The expression, "don't put all your eggs in one basket," is now seen less as advice on diversifying your options and more about not buying a breakfast that'll put you in debt. The cost of food has risen by 3% over the last 12 months, which is higher than the rate of inflation. This is due to a number of factors, and lowering costs would require cooperation and commitment from leaders on both sides of the aisles, which of course means they'll instead use it to take political shots at each other. Like Elizabeth Warren saying instead of lowering grocery costs, Trump is trying to cancel Big Bird. This is in response to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting announcing it would be shutting down. And that was in response to them having over $1 billion in their funding cut by the Trump administration. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting funnels funding to NPR and PBS, the latter of which airs Sesame Street. You know, if people are hungry and Big Bird is out of a job, there's an obvious solution here. However, some have pointed out that Big Bird wouldn't actually be canceled since he's owned by Sesame Workshop and deals have been made to air Sesame Street on other networks. Which is a shame because you pour a little sesame oil on this bad boy and you got good eating. Serve me up a leg with a side of snuffleupagus. Okay, I'm being a bit too cynical. Let's move on to a touching, sincere story about Indian and African Americans coming together. Elizabeth Warren endorsed Zohran Mamdani for mayor of New York City. Not only that, Warren said his policies are the future of the Democratic Party.
Progressive, social. Is this what the party should look like?
Yes.
The Democratic Party moving.
You bet. The Democratic Party needs to stand up and be clear. We are the party that fights for affordability for working families.
This is in line with something Bernie Sanders said right after the shellacking Democrats took in the 2024 election, that the working class abandoned the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party abandoned the working class. Which is ridiculous. What says we understand the plight of the common man more than getting Beyonce to endorse Kamala Harris? She's totally blue collar. And not racist blue collars like those in white supremacist Sydney Sweeney ads that I'm definitely not putting on screen again to maintain viewer engagement for YouTube's algorithm. But would socialist policies actually help lower prices? We did a deep dive into Mamdani's proposed policies and looked at how they fared historically. Did they help make things more affordable? Short answer, no. Long answer, no. Senator John Cornyn introduced legislation that would create mandatory minimum sentences for politicians who commit fraud, leading many to wonder, how is that not a law already? Was rules for thee and not for me an official policy? So is this new legislation proposal correcting a 200-plus year oversight? No. Like anything in politics these days, it's for political points. The bill is called the Enforcement Tools to Interdict Troubling Investments in Abodes. Strange use of words? Yeah, that's because it's abbreviated as the Letitia Act, named after New York Attorney General Letitia James, who's facing allegations of mortgage fraud. Quick relationship advice: find you someone who devotes as much time to you as politicians do to acronyms. While I'm a big advocate of politicians being held accountable, I'm not optimistic about this passing. First, because it looks like they put more thought into the acronym than the bill itself. It's like snakes on a plane. Someone thought of the name and just wrote something around it. Second, if it even comes to a vote, I don't know how many politicians are going to vote for a bill aimed at punishing crooked politicians. I mean, isn't that like half the reason people become politicians, to be crooked? It's It's kind of like how they've repeatedly voted down versions of Republican Senator Josh Hawley's bill aimed at banning lawmakers from trading stocks, which he called the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments, or Pelosi Act. If only politicians put as much time into actually solving America's problems as they do coming up with acronyms, America would be much better off. I'm kidding, of course. Politicians can't solve America's problems. Only we, the American people, can. See, I can be sincere. However, Hawley's most recent version of this politician stock ban did pass through committee, though it's not certain if it will be taken to a vote on the Senate floor, as senators have a lot on their plates. Specifically, all that sweet money they got from a bunch of lucky stock market guesses. But you know who's not a fan of this bill? President Trump. He called Hawley a second-tier senator and said this bill was rushed through committee and targets the president specifically, though Hawley reportedly met with Trump and the two smoothed things out. Honestly, it's probably more hurtful for politicians not getting a 9-paragraph presidential truth social rant at this point. If he isn't typing about you in misspelled all caps, then does he even care about you at all? It's like Vance's response to South Park. Man, that was a clever, edgy takedown of the president. By the way, South Park just got a $1.5 billion streaming deal. But back to Hawley's bill. The current version has a carve-out for Trump, who won't be affected by a divestment requirement. So, rules for us, but not for POTUS? But again, relying on corrupt lawmakers to pass a law punishing corrupt lawmakers is like being shot out in the vacuum of space. Don't hold your breath. Seriously, your lungs would explode. Not funny, but informative. Republican House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer issued subpoenas to the Department of Justice for the complete Epstein files, as well as depositions with Bill and Hillary Clinton. Oh, I almost felt hope for a second there. Forgot my own rule. Nothing ever happens. At this point, the Epstein files are like GTA 6. I hope I'm proven wrong, and anyone who committed heinous acts, no matter how well connected they are, will be brought to justice. If that were to happen, we'd be in even more unprecedented times, flying by the seat of our pants, our apparently racist pants. And before you go, be sure to check out this other episode of America Uncovered recommended by the algorithm. Click on good content and not just thumbnails featuring people with great jeans. And as always, support America Uncovered by subscribing to our new website, AmericaUncovered.tv. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.